During my high school years, basketball was more than just a sport for me, it was a passion that drove me to excel. I embraced the challenge of pushing myself to new heights on the court. My senior year, in particular, was a defining time, as I was a pivotal player on the school's basketball team. It was also during this crucial season, amidst the hustle and bustle of basketball practice and games, that the unsettling incident I'm about to recount took place. One of the perks of being a senior was having an open hour in my schedule. Many of my fellow seniors opted to use this extra hour to sleep in a bit longer or leave school earlier, but I chose a different path. I decided to invest that precious hour in my one true passion: basketball. Our school was blessed with a surplus of gymnasiums, and one of them, the back gym, became my sanctuary. Unlike the others, the back gym rarely saw classes or activities. It was often deserted during school hours, making it the perfect space for my personal practice sessions. I'd religiously follow the same routine each day. After finishing my last morning class, I'd head to the locker room, change into my basketball gear, and grab my trusty ball. The process was like second nature by then. Following the transformation into my basketball persona, I'd make my way to the secluded back gym. The solitude of that gym was a comfort like no other. The faint echoes of my sneakers squeaking against the polished floor and the rhythmic pounding of the basketball reverberating off the walls created a symphony that brought me both peace and motivation. I'd drill my shots, dribble through elaborate patterns, and work on improving my skills, all in the company of my thoughts and the ball. On that fateful day, nothing seemed out of the ordinary when I entered the back gym. The familiar sights and sounds greeted me as I commenced my practice session. Glancing at the clock on the wall sporadically, I kept my eye on the time to ensure I didn't lose track of my open hour. The intercom's abrupt interruption of my solitude took me by surprise. It wasn't the typical announcement, as a distinct beep sounded before the somber voice informed us that the school was going into lockdown. Instantly, I felt a shiver down my spine. This didn't seem like a routine drill, something about it felt too real. As I processed the gravity of the situation, my mind raced with questions. Why were we going into lockdown? What was happening in the school? The air in the gym grew tense, and my fellow students, who usually came here for PE, started to murmur. They turned to me for answers, but I had none to give. My instinct was to follow the lockdown procedures diligently. I dimmed the lights in the gym and secured the doors to ensure the safety of those inside. As I ushered my peers to the back of the gym, I couldn't help but share their curiosity and concern. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as we waited in the dimly lit gym, uncertain of the unfolding events. The minutes dragged on, each one pregnant with anticipation and anxiety. Approximately 10 minutes into the lockdown, my cell phone, which rested atop my bag, began to vibrate discreetly. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. Initially, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but a nagging curiosity compelled me to answer. Perhaps it was another teacher trying to relay critical information. As I held the phone to my ear, a voice I didn't recognize began to speak. It was calm and professional, informing me that I was urgently required in the principal's office. Naturally, I questioned the caller, seeking an explanation for the summons. Yet, my inquiries were met with vague responses, and I was left with more questions than answers. The caller insisted that I had to leave my current location and make my way to the principal's office immediately. The cryptic conversation ended with a click as they hung up. The situation felt surreal, and I struggled to comprehend why I, in the midst of a school lockdown, was being called to the principal's office without any explanation. My students looked at me, their eyes filled with curiosity and concern. I conveyed the puzzling message I had received, explaining that I didn't know why I was being summoned. Standing at a crossroads, I debated whether to follow the enigmatic instructions or remain with my students in the gym. The sense of unease weighed heavily on me, and I hesitated to leave them, considering the circumstances. Little did I know that this internal debate would prove to be a pivotal moment. Eventually, I chose to leave the gym, my footsteps echoing in the stillness as I made my way back through the darkened corridors. The unsettling feeling of uncertainty intensified with each step. My journey led me to the locker room, where I intended to gather my belongings and proceed to the principal's office. However, as I reached for the locker room door, it refused to yield. It was locked. Panic flickered at the edges of my consciousness as I grappled with the realization that I was trapped. The world outside had become an unsettling place, and I needed to find refuge. With no other option but to move forward, I ventured back into the hallway. The eerie quietude was punctuated only by the sound of my own footsteps. An unsettling realization dawned on me: there were no classrooms nearby. The hallways were eerily deserted, with no sign of fellow students or staff. My pursuit of refuge led me down the hallway, guided only by the dim overhead lights. It was a disorienting journey through the labyrinthine corridors of the school. My footsteps echoed, a stark contrast to the usual bustling school atmosphere. The heavy silence weighed on me, a testament to the gravity of the situation. Finally, I reached the science hallway, a seemingly endless corridor lined with closed classroom doors. Desperation welled up within me as I frantically knocked on the nearest door. Moments passed before a familiar face, a teacher who knew me well, peered through the small window of the door. Relief washed over me as I was welcomed inside. I inquired about the lockdown, hoping for clarity, but received no definitive answers. The teacher seemed as bewildered as I was. As minutes stretched into what felt like hours, we waited, our uncertainty mounting. Eventually, the intercom crackled to life, announcing the end of the lockdown. The tension in the classroom began to dissipate, and we were permitted to exit and proceed to our next classes. As I emerged into the hallways, whispers of the lockdown's cause spread like wildfire. It was then that I learned the chilling truth: a man had infiltrated the school, gaining unauthorized access. The lockdown had been initiated to ensure the safety of the students and staff. What sent shivers down my spine, however, was the revelation that the intruder had been hiding inside the very gym where I had practiced. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, and I realized that the mysterious figure I had encountered on the other side of the divider in the gym was likely the same individual who had later broken into the school. The unsettling presence I had sensed was far more sinister than I had initially realized. The incident left an indelible mark on my memory, a constant reminder of the potential dangers that can lurk in the most unexpected places. The eerie calmness that had descended upon the school during the lockdown, broken only by hushed conversations and the intercom's announcements, served as a stark contrast to the chaotic and potentially perilous situation that had unfolded within its walls. Even today, the memory of that day continues to haunt me, a testament to the fragility of our sense of security and the need for vigilance, even in the most familiar of places. During my junior year of high school, I had a chilling encounter that still haunts my memories. Every day, I walked to school and back, given that my home was conveniently close, a mere 10 to 15 minute stroll away. My route was straightforward, following the sidewalks that led me to my destination. But one ominous morning, my routine took a terrifying turn. It was around 7:30 a.m., and school commenced at 7:50 a.m. As I left my house with my backpack in tow, I noticed a car parked by the side of the street, right along my usual path. This was no ordinary vehicle, it was an unfamiliar older dark gray BMW. Intrigued and slightly on edge, I continued walking, my curiosity piqued. Suddenly, the passenger side window of the BMW slid down, and a young man, slightly older than me, sat behind the wheel. He beckoned me over and introduced himself as Ryan, or so he claimed. He mentioned attending a school in the neighboring city, and he asserted that he was good friends with Erica, one of my closest friends. Supposedly, Erica had requested that he pick both of us up and give us a ride to school. The proposition seemed peculiar and didn't align with anything Erica had ever mentioned about her friends. I declined the offer, explaining that I needed to check with Erica to confirm this arrangement. A sense of unease lingered as I contemplated the situation. The man seemed disappointed but eventually acquiesced. I resumed my journey as he drove away. While on my way to school, I sent Erica a text to inquire about this mysterious acquaintance. Given our differing first-hour classes on opposite ends of the school, I rarely saw her before school started. Her response confirmed my suspicions. She had no knowledge of this individual. The enigma deepened. Later that day, during my first-hour English class, about 30 minutes into the lesson, our school unexpectedly went into lockdown. None of us had experienced a lockdown before. It was a first in my entire time at the school, during which we'd only undergone a few drills. The teacher directed us to the back of the classroom, turned off the lights, and locked the door. In hushed anxiety, we waited in silence, the minutes stretching into what felt like an eternity. Though the lockdown didn't last long, approximately 20 minutes, the atmosphere was tense and foreboding. As the ordeal concluded, curiosity gnawed at our nerves, craving an explanation. By the day's end, I pieced together the disconcerting puzzle. A man had boldly entered the school after classes had commenced, slipping past the receptionist. With only the front door open, he went undetected until a vigilant hall monitor confronted him, requesting a pass. Ignoring the query, the man continued into the locker commons area, where he remained hidden, triggering the school lockdown. Alas, he managed to elude capture by fleeing the school premises, and a subsequent search turned up empty. The wooded expanse behind our school left ample room for him to vanish. Despite this disconcerting incident, I hadn't connected the dots between the mysterious man in the BMW and the school intruder. Life moved on, and I walked home that day as I always did. However, my journey home took a sinister twist when, halfway there, I spotted the same car that had been parked outside my house earlier. A sense of dread washed over me. It was evident that this man was not who he claimed to be. The car was once again parked by the side of the road, obstructing my path. I quickened my pace, but when I reached the vehicle, the driver called out to me. His window was already down as he greeted me, and I offered a brief response, determined to continue walking. Then, he urged me to stop, and I ignored his command. His next statement sent chills down my spine, as he casually revealed that he had been inside my school during the lockdown. I froze, aghast at his audacity. His unsettling laughter filled the air as he recounted his escape, all while opening the car door and stepping out. My fear escalated, and I began to walk even faster. As the man pursued me, he transitioned into a sprint, and it became evident that he was closing the gap. I veered off the sidewalk and into the middle of the road, where an unexpected stroke of fortune intervened. A car approached on that otherwise quiet road, and I ran straight for it, realizing that I recognized the driver. It was Matt, a classmate of mine. Matt stopped the car, and I rushed to the passenger side. The man chasing me closed in, trying to force his way in. Matt promptly locked the doors, and the stranger resorted to pounding on the vehicle. Concerned, Matt questioned me about the situation, and I urged him to drive away. We sped off, leaving the bewildered man standing in the street. I immediately dialed the police to report the harrowing encounter. Matt, displaying true heroism, dropped me off at my house. The authorities arrived shortly afterward, discussing the incident with me and my parents. They assured us they would be on the lookout for the car I had described. The same day, the police located the man who had been stalking me for several days, unbeknownst to me. I still wonder why he entered our school, possibly waiting for me by my locker, while he could easily pass for a student. Despite his youthful appearance, he was actually in his mid-20s and not a student. This terrifying experience, though years ago, continues to haunt my thoughts. I am forever grateful to Matt for being in the right place at the right time, sparing me from an unknown threat.